Batman the Animated Series famously spawned several original characters that would one day find their way to the mainline DC Comics. The most well-known of these characters are, of course, Harley Quinn, Renee Montoya, and the Condiment King. Don't at me, he's in the Lego Batman movie, it doesn't get bigger than that. But there are a handful of other lesser-known characters that debuted in BTAS that also made their way to the comics. Today I'm looking at one such character, Lyle Bolton, also known as Lockup. Bolton made his debut in the episode Lockup as the new head of security at Arkham Asylum. I kind of feel like there's a pun hidden in his name. Bolton, as in deadbolt, part of a lock. Given that Paul Dini came up with the character and his penchant for very on-the-nose real names for his villains, Harleen Quinzel, Mary Doll, etc., it was very likely intentional. Our introduction to Bolton comes with Batman and Robin returning the Scarecrow to Arkham Asylum. It seems that the Master of Fear had escaped from Arkham in order to get away from Bolton and his cruel and unusual forms of discipline. It's genuinely unnerving to see the Scarecrow scared out of his mind at the prospect of being handed over to Bolton. When we first see him, Bolton is a hulking silhouette, standing atop a set of stairs, looming over Batman, Robin and the Scarecrow. This is the very first parallel between Bolton and Batman to be made. How many times have we seen Batman casting an intimidating shadow over some ne'er-do-wells? Still, Batman also notes that he's concerned by the Scarecrow's reaction to Bolton and, as Bruce Wayne, calls for an inquest into Bolton's conduct. This ultimately uncovers the means Bolton goes to in order to keep the inmates in line. With his misconduct unearthed and his position in jeopardy, Bolton explodes with anger and violence, lashing out at those that would impede his mission, to keep the scum of the earth locked up. Bolton's rage is a direct reaction to his own feelings of losing control. In fact, the very act of locking people away is a form of control. He takes away their liberty, implementing cruel forms of punishment to break their spirits and force them to behave in a way that he deems appropriate.
You should all be locked up in a cage without a key!
When we see Bolton at home, he sits in the dark in a large, empty room. The only furniture we see is his chair and his television, taking minimalism to the extreme. For someone that claims to hate the permissive liberal media, the television is the central point of his home and the only thing for him to focus his attention upon. When he tips the television over, smashing it, that is the moment that Lockup is born. When Robin later breaks into Bolton's home, we see that the entire place is similarly sparse, and the TV is still smashed on the floor 6 months later. His small bedroom contains a single fold-up bed, the absolute bare minimum needed to get by. Very practical, with nothing to make the place feel like a home. If anything, it resembles a cell or a barracks. It's kind of funny, but also very sad, that when BTAS first aired, this kind of personality would be viewed as extreme. But in this day and age, he'd probably get his own segment on Fox News. When Bolton re-emerges as Lockup, he sets about imprisoning those he views as the real criminals responsible for the decline of the city. The liberal permissive media, the coddling doctors, the gutless police, the mindless bureaucrats. Lockup is essentially a far-right version of Batman. No compassion, no mercy. All punishment. Robert Skier, one of the writers of the episode, has cited Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver as a big influence on the character of Lyle Bolton. The scene at Bolton's home where he tips over the television is a direct reference to a similar scene in Taxi Driver, where Travis destroys his TV as a result of his frustrations with the way his personal life is going. Lockup's dialogue would not sound out of place as part of one of Travis's monologues.
This city is an open wound begging to be stitched.
Looking at Lockup's costume, it features the same colour scheme as Batman's. The main difference here is that Lockup's eyes are exposed while Batman's cowl only shows his mouth. I have no idea of the significance of this. You could potentially view it as Lockup being an upside down reflection of Batman, but ultimately the exposed eyes allow for more expressions to come through. The outline of Bolton's mouth can be seen through his mask, especially when he spends much of his time screaming and shouting. Lockup has a very simplistic view on life, as many on the right tend to do. Everything is black and white. There's good, there's bad, there's right and there's wrong. Anything that isn't right is wrong, and therefore must be locked up. There's not much room for shades of grey. While Lockup responds to the mentally unwell with violence and oppression, Batman is compassionate towards his foes. Yes, Batman is capable of responding with violence, but note that when he was returned to Arkham, the Scarecrow had not been brutalised. Then we look at Bolton's expression when the Scarecrow is handed over to his custody. He genuinely seems to relish the opportunity to impose his will on Scarecrow. The climax of the episode takes place on board a sinking ship, which isn't exactly a subtle metaphor for Lockup's schemes falling apart, but I really enjoy it. I'm also very fond of the ending with Lockup finding himself in Arkham, where he can keep a closer eye on the inmates. The final shot of Lockup Lockup peering out of his cell door, with only his eyes being visible, evokes his mask, indicating that even without his costume, Lyle Bolton is completely gone. All that remains is Lockup, and that was a really neat visual. Lockup only appeared in one episode and made a handful of appearances in the tie-in comics, but never in a particularly major capacity. I think this is because ultimately this episode says absolutely everything there is to say about the character. His most recent appearance in Batman Adventures Continue Season 3 cast him as muscle for hire working for the mob. This feels like a bit of a betrayal of his beliefs, which Batman points out to him, displaying some real cognitive dissonance on Lockup's part. Now, speaking of the comics, Lockup was one of the first BTAS characters to make their way to the main comic book continuity. Lockup made his first appearance in Robin 24, published in January of 1996, and has made several appearances in issues of Detective Comics, usually turning up and apprehending the villain of the story right at the end before vanishing into the night. His first major story, Detective Comics 697 through to 699, was an immediate follow-up to his appearance in Robin. The story revolved around Batman, Robin and Nightwing getting involved after Lockup kidnapped Two-Face and locked him away in his secret prison. Lockup reappeared a few years later as the jailer of Blackgate Prison during the No Man's Land crossover. He was featured in a 3-part story where Batman sends Nightwing to liberate Blackgate from Lockup's control. While Batman had initially tolerated Lockup, it was on the understanding that he wouldn't torture the prisoners. Guess how long it took before that deal was broken. In both stories, Bolton's solution to dealing with problematic inmates is to drown them. I'm not sure of the significance of Lockup attempting to drown people. Perhaps it was a callback to the BTAS episode where Lockup's prisoners almost drowned. Or maybe there was no significance and it was just the writer reusing an idea from the show. While this version of Lockup is fairly similar to the animated series version, ultimately I feel as if the parallels to Batman are lessened. If anything, he feels more like a critique of edgy vigilante characters like the Punisher. This was made all the more apparent by the fact that the writer of almost all of Lockup's pre-Flashpoint appearances, Chuck Dixon, was a prolific writer of The Punisher as well as Batman. The key differences are that the comic book version was expelled from the police academy for excessive brutality, and he has blonde hair, presumably to make him more visually distinguishable from the Punisher. This probably won't come as much of a surprise, but I prefer the animated series version of Lockup, even if he is a bit one note.
I've seen how you treat your prisoners. Forgotten and scared. Without hope or compassion. Can it be you actually care for those creatures? You're just as crazy as they are.
He's a dark reflection of Batman. He's what Batman could be if he lacked compassion and self-awareness. By holding the dark mirror up, it highlights everything that makes this version of Batman so endearing.